Hello there. Today we will be reading a creepypasta, thus titled, The Night the Pack Came. Written by a person on Reddit named corpse_child. I hope you enjoy, and if you do, please like and subscribe, and consider checking out the author and original story at the description below. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Count Julius Productions. I'm so scared right now, more than I ever thought I could be. I'm scared for me, my baby, but most of all I'm scared for John. It's been 2 days now, and I still haven't seen or heard anything from him. I've tried asking the guy at the front desk if he's heard from the ranger, but nothing. God, wherever you are, please be okay. It all happened so fast. One moment everything was peachy keen, snuggled up under the nice soft blankets, fast asleep for once. Something that doesn't happen too often when 2 months pregnant. Expecting at any moment to feel John's firm yet gentle arms embrace me, letting me know he was home from another night in the woods. 2 nights ago, however, I was violently shaken awake. "Loretta!" It was dark and I could barely register his voice. "Loretta!" This time he barked my name a little more abrasively, causing me to jolt a bit. "Huh?" "Come on, honey. We have to go. Now!" I could tell by now something wasn't right. He'd never spoken to me like this before, and I could hear him breathing heavily. When I turned over and clicked on the lights, my heart damn near stopped dead. His clothes were in tatters and he had scratches all over him, as well as what looked like teeth marks from some wild animal. I almost screamed, "Oh my God, John, what in the name of—" "I said now! Come on!" he shouted, cutting me off. I was frozen, both from shock and fear. Never once had that man raised his voice to me like this. Even when we'd fight, I was usually the loudmouth while he was the speak soft and carry the bigger stick type. "Don't just sit there staring like an idiot at me. Get moving!" Sure enough, my stupor was broken, and I made my way out of the bed. "Start unpacking the dresser. Grab a few changes of clothes. We may be gone for a good while." My head spun furiously. What the hell is going on? Why do we have to leave? Where are we going? Does he even know? Why is he covered in scratches? How long are we going to be gone? I finally managed to stammer out. Panicked and still somewhat half asleep, he rubbed his face and said through his palms, God, I don't know. Just come on, get moving." I shambled to the dresser as he stomped down the hallway. I started opening the drawers and slowly pulling out the neatly folded clothes and setting them on the bed. Soon he returned with our vacation suitcases. "Here, just throw 'em in," he said, snatching a handful and tossing it haphazardly into the suitcase. I noticed as he continued to cram our clothes in the suitcase that he was shaking, like at any second he would explode. I pleaded, "Johnny, baby, what is it? What's—" As I went to try and put my hand on his shoulder to calm him down, he batted my hand away. "Damn it, woman, not now!" Startled, I retracted my hand away, like I just touched the hot ring of the stove. He looked at me like he'd just committed a murder. His eyes were bulging and were covered in large red veins. My eyes bargained to burn, and I could feel tears filling them up. He winced and buried his face in his palm again. "God, Loretta, baby, I'm so sorry." I could hear his voice shaking when he said that. Now the tears were in full swing. On top of the confusion as to why we would have to leave in the dead of the night like fugitives, I was petrified with thoughts of something out in the woods that's making my husband break down like this. Keep in mind, John Redwood was not one to frighten very easily. For starters, the man was built like a lumberjack, almost all muscle too. He was also very much an outdoorsman, always spending most of his downtime in the woods. It was half the reason we even bought this house in the mountains of Jackal's Peak. Now, add in the fact that he's also a full-time bouncer at the nearby tavern, especially known for dealing with the larger-sized patrons who became unruly. And you would see how chilling it was seeing him in that moment, utterly terrified for dear life. His trembling soon turned into violent spasms. I almost thought he'd driven himself straight into a heart attack. "John, please," I squeak, my voice broken. "Talk to me. What's going on? What happened out there?" His face remained in his palms, and I thought I heard him mumble something like, "They're coming," over and over. "Who's coming?" He brought his face back up and looked at me, his face all red and puffy. "The pack." "Who?" He rubbed his face again before saying, "Look, there are things about me I haven't told you, and for good reason. Right now, I just need you to trust me and do what I say." Frightened as I was, I couldn't take the cryptic crap anymore. "Then talk to me, god damn it! What is going on? Who is the pack, and what do they want?" His body started jerking more and more. You'd have thought Pazazu was trying to possess him or something. Suddenly he roared, "Why can't you just listen to me?" This made me shrink again. This time, it wasn't that he'd screamed at me again, but rather because of the way his voice sounded. I can't really explain it, but it was like his voice was distorting somehow, getting deeper and sounding more subhuman. It actually caused my heart to skip a few beats as it seemed to resonate through my body. His face then winced and twisted like he was in pain. I don't know what to do or say anymore. "Just please, Loretta," he forced out through gritted teeth. Then, that was when I heard the sounds of howling coming from outside. Judging from how loud and clear I could make them out, it wasn't far away from our house. "Ah, Jesus," John whispered. "They're here." In an instant, he grabbed my shoulders tightly. It actually kind of hurt how he had me. His terrified eyes locked onto mine, and he shook me more violently than ever as he spoke. "Loretta, my sweet baby blossom, I love you. I love you and this baby more than anything in this godforsaken world. I would never let anything in this world take that away from me," but it was briefly interrupted by a sharp seizure of pain. "But I need you to do as I say. I have to get you out of here." Just then, I heard the howling again, this time much closer. I could hear it from all around the house. "Get down," he ordered. I ducked down to my hands and knees, as he quickly clicked the lamp off. "Stay low and don't make a sound. We're going to have to get out through the cellar." I began crawling out of the bedroom as quickly as possible while trying to stay quiet. The hallway was still dark, and my eyes had to take a minute to readjust as I crawled towards the basement door of the other end. I could now hear what sounded like scratching coming from the front door in the living room. Another series of howls almost caused my heart to burst. I froze in place. What is that? Wolves? Well, he told me before that there are wolves in Jackal's Peak. I was told they usually stay closer to the top of the mountain range, in the more densely forested area. What are they doing down here? "Keep moving," I heard from behind me. It was John, also crawling on his hands and knees. I only got about another 2 or 3 feet further when I heard a crash that sent the door straight off its hinges. I couldn't hold back a scream at that. "Go run!" John shouted, shoving me forward. I clumsily bolted that last bit of the door, threw it open. From the living room, I could hear the sounds of snarled growling. It sounded deeper and bigger than any dog or wolf I had heard before. I could hear stampeding footsteps coming straight for the hallway. Instantly, I threw myself into the cellar with John right behind me. As I was about to close the door, a blow from the other side sent him tumbling backwards. "John!" I was about to rush forward when he shot out his hand, stopping me. "Just go!" Then, my blood froze solid when I watched the door get ripped right off the wall. Silhouetted in the doorway, I saw what looked like a gigantic wolf. Its ears perked up and standing on its hind legs, staring straight at me with glowing, burning orange eyes. It was huge, standing at least 7 to 8 feet tall, covered with pitch-dark fur, with long, lean, muscular arms, and a vulpine muzzle with long, jagged teeth. Soon, another just like it joined its side, before simultaneously howling in the air. This time, it was almost deafening, and I think I actually felt my eardrums pop. "I said run! Now!" His voice was further distorted now. As I turned to run for the hatch leading for the backyard, I could hear one of the creatures leap forward and crash land just a couple inches behind me. That was the fire under my butt that had essentially sprinting to the other side of the cellar. It was right on my heels, about a few feet away from it, though I felt its claws slash at my back and I fell face down. Extreme pain shot through my body. More than that, however, I was worried they may have hurt the baby with the fall. However, I couldn't think about any of that because the next thing I knew, it grabbed my ankle and dragged me backwards. I almost tore out one of my nails, trying feebly to keep myself from being pulled towards the beast. It was no use though. Even as skinny as it looked, it was strong. So strong that when it dragged me close enough, it was able to hoist me up, one-handed, by my right leg. It brought me to my right up to its eye level, before bursting out a terrifying roar in my face. I squirmed and tried frantically to kick myself free. Finally, as it unhinged its jaws, John bashing it over the head with a metal rod, the creature retracted, roaring and howling in pain, before hurling me to the wall. I felt my ribs cracked when I crashed into the wall. My vision started blurring as I tried to catch my breath. When I looked up again, the beast was stomping towards me, its growling sounding noticeably more pissed off. I tried to get up, but the pain in my ribs made it too difficult to do much in the way of movement. It was almost right up on me again when out of nowhere, John sprang up from behind and wrapped his arms around its throat. My eyes were 2 seconds from shooting straight from their sockets when I saw this. "Get out of here!" Despite the beast thrashing around worse than a mechanical bull, he held on tight to its throat. Eventually, he was able to break his hold and hurl him away too. By then, I was able to shamble to the cellar door and begin climbing the ladder. I could hear it stomping towards me, and I all but flew up the ladder. Once I made it out, I quickly bolted the hatch. I knew it wouldn't hold long, but I figured it would be enough to get away. Not even a minute after doing this, I saw the hatch begin to splinter and stove outwards. Luckily, I was still able to make it to the car when I heard the sounds of them darting for me from behind. Right as I got in the front seat and was about to shut the door, another one of them leapt onto the roof, causing it to cave inwards. Before I could get the door shut, it wedged its massive clawed paw in between them and wrapped them around the frame. I tried to pry them loose, and when that didn't work, I tried to open and shut the door again. Big mistake. As soon as I opened the door, the beast grabbed me by the arm and tried to jerk me from the driver's seat. I quickly went for the reach of the glove compartment for the 09mm John had stashed up there for his trips to the range. I wasn't able to reach far enough from the beast's grasp on my arm to open it, only far enough to barely brush it with my fingertips as I was being forcefully pulled upwards towards the roof of the car. All of a sudden, I heard the sound of a shotgun blast ringing out from the passenger side of the car. The next thing I knew, I felt it release my arm, and I was able to close the door. Looking to my right, there was John, standing in the front yard, loading another round of the shotgun he'd inherited from his father. He raised up to aim for another shot, when I saw one of the other two charge up behind him. With a giant leap, it brought him down before he could get the shot off. That's when the other one on the roof decided to join in with its partner in devouring my husband. As the other one sculled closer, I could see John was struggling fiercely against the one holding him down, attempting to use the shotgun as a barrier to hold the beast and its ravenous jaws back. Thinking quickly, I put the keys in the ignition and threw it into drive before flooring it. Sure enough, it worked, and the one in front of me was sent to the ground. The one on top of John now fixed its enraged, glowing eyes on me. It let go of him and raised back up on its hind legs before letting out an ear-shattering howl into the air. I put the car in reverse and back into drive again, ready to ram it as I had the other one, when it bounded through the air and landed right on the hood of the car. Immediately, it sent a giant hand crashing through the windshield and started groping to grab onto me. As I hysterically went for a second time for the gun in the glove compartment, I felt its claws wrap tightly around my throat, squeezing tighter and tighter. I could feel the air being forced from my lungs as the beast's face began to blur. I tried as hard as I possibly could to pry its fingers from around my throat, but it was no good. As my sight started to darken, all I thought about was my baby, all the memories that we now would never have happen. Before it could finish suffocating me, I heard something strike the beast's head that caused it to immediately release my throat. It was John using the butt of his shotgun to bludgeon the beast, causing it to snap in half. "I told you, you damn mutt! You can't have her!" I was relieved, yet confused at the same time. What is he talking about? For a second, I remembered what he told me about things I don't know about him. Things he never told me. Did he somehow know about those things? I wasn't given time to think about that any further about that. At the time, though, John ducked down, dodging a massive swipe of the beast's claws, before clambering into the passenger seats. Immediately he went for the glove compartment and drew the 09mm. "Floor it!" He sent 6 rounds straight in between the eyes and staggered back and off the car. "Come on, get this thing moving!" he barked, snapping me from my daze. I threw the car into reverse again as I saw the beast staring back at me, its eyes now burning and enraged. It reared back to pounce, and just as I was swerving to turn around the street, causing it to slam face first into the right door of the back seat. The car was shaken, almost to the point of turning over on its side with the impact, and the door was caved inwards. Fortunately, that seemed to knock the beast dizzy as I chanced a quick look back and saw that it was staggering around. Before it'd have the chance to regain its bearings, I peeled out the front yard and slammed the accelerator down the street. We were flying down the mountain pass at least 65 going on 70 miles an hour. I couldn't bring myself to slow down. My mind was bouncing erratically in 10 million thoughts at once. What if they're following? What if there's more of them? Out there in these dense woods. What the hell even are they? What do they want? What was John talking about when they said, They couldn't have me. What? I was cut off when I felt John jerk the wheel to the left. When I was aware again, I saw that he just narrowly kept us from careening off the side of Jackal's Peak, a 2,500-foot drop. Once we were safely back on the pass again, we pulled over and stopped the car. For almost 5 minutes, neither one of us could do or say anything. Just sat there and trying to catch our breath and steady our heartbeats. John was the one to first break the silence. Alright, here's what we're going to do. You remember the old motel we stayed at last weekend? The one with the hot tub out back? I remained quiet. We're gonna go there, and you're gonna go check in for a few days. I'm gonna sort everything out with the house. I'll come back to let you know when it's clear to come back. My teeth clenched and my knuckles turned white around the steering wheel. Oh, sure, and I'm supposed to just take that as reassurance that you'll come back. And I'm not supposed to bother asking what in the name of freaking God happened back there, right? I felt myself spiraling into the usual screaming psycho mode I mentioned before. But this time, I knew I had every right in the world and more to be judging from the sunken, sullen look in his eyes. I could tell he felt the same. Loretta, No, I shouted, cutting him off dead. I don't want to hear any more of your cryptid, cockamamie excuses. I want answers, and I want them now. Admittedly, I was a little more abrasive than I meant to be with that last bit, but, again, was I not justified? For a moment, we just sat there, staring back at me. Figuring I had frightened him, and rightfully so, I pressed further. Well? Again, he said nothing. Just sat there looking guilty. Wow, I scoffed. I was utterly baffled. Somehow even more so than earlier. 3 years I've been married to this man, and I find out he'd been keeping secrets from me. Not only that, but apparently secrets that have now put the lives of me and him in very real danger, not to mention our incoming child. And now, to top it all off, he can't even have the decency to at least try and tell me what's going on. He opened the door and began to get out of the car. I nearly saw red. Oh, and exactly where the heck do you think you're going? I immediately threw open the driver door and got out, stomping towards him. So that's just it. You're gonna walk away. You're not even gonna say anything to explain or justify what happened? Why, a bunch of things just broke into our home and almost tore us apart? What is going on? What the frick are you so afraid of? Loretta, please, not now, he shouted. I wasn't about to back down that easy, though. Why? Why can't you just talk to me? Your wife. For God's sake, just tell me what's going on. I said enough! He roared. This time, his voice sounded almost subhuman, and I felt all my stamina to keep pushing him strip away. He stood at the ledge, profusely shaking and twitching. I felt so small standing there, facing his back. I felt the tears well up in my eyes again, and I couldn't help but to squeak out a small sob. Please, just listen to me, Loretta, he said, in a shaking, almost completely growling voice. I watched as his body continued to convulse. I thought he was in the middle of a seizure or stroke. John, I softly whimpered, I love you. Baby Blossom, and I love our baby. I'm so sorry that it came to this. I never wanted to allow you to get hurt. I never wanted you to have to be a part of any of this. Of what? I cried. It felt like in 2 seconds flat, I was going to end up dropping into a full-blown panic attack. I made an agreement long ago with the pack that people I loved, people like you, would be left alone if I bought them offerings. That's why I've been in the woods a lot. I stood there, jaw slack, in the middle of trying to fully register what he just said, while also trying to decide if he was telling the truth. It was so easy at first. Just a couple small farm animals and woodland critters here and there. His body jerked so violently. As he spoke all this, I could see his knees shaking, threatening at any moment to buckle from beneath him. After a sharp groan of pain, he continued. Eventually it wasn't enough anymore. They wanted bigger and bigger morsels. Tonight they wanted me to offer them a baby. I was now hopelessly lost and confused. What is he talking about? None of what he was saying made any sense to me. Or maybe it did, and deep down, I was just too afraid to admit it to myself then. I couldn't do it, he said, his voice shaking even worse now. I couldn't do it, and now they want to punish me by going after you. Another spasm caused him to finally fall to his knees. Instantly, my instincts kicked in and I rushed over to him. That's when he looked back and bellowed in a now completely unrecognizable voice. No! Stay back! I once again stopped dead in my tracks. My heart almost stopped when I saw his eyes. They were now a pulsing, burning orange. Another series of the most violent jerks I'd ever seen before erupted through his entire body, causing him to seize and cry out in pain. For the next minute, I watched in frozen terror as John's body seemed to break and reshape itself. I could hear bones breaking, and his muscles somehow began to swell in size, tearing through his plaid shirt. Before too much longer, I could see his face start to poke outwards, and his nose deformed and reformed into what resembled the muzzle of a dog. His body began to be covered in thick, silver hair, or was it fur? I was too frozen in terror to even scream. Once the metamorphosis finished and John no longer looked like John anymore, it raised on its hind legs before blasting an aggressive howl up to the night sky. The intensity caused me to collapse to my knees and press my ears as tightly as possible. When I opened my eyes again, whatever it was leering down at me, snarling and baring its jagged teeth. John, I squeaked, shuddering. Nothing. He just stood there growling at me like he was ready to pounce. Oh, sweet God, my own husband is going to eat me and our unborn child alive. I slowly began stepping back towards the car. Just take it slow. I took a staggered step forward towards me before going down on all fours and continuing. For a second, I froze, just waiting for him to leap for the kill. Johnny, baby, please. I knew it was no use, but I couldn't help it. A very small part of me was still somehow expecting to wake up from this. I'd be woken up to the smell of pancakes and bacon and fresh coffee in the morning, and I'd rush down to the kitchen and squeeze John until he started to suffocate, like how I was earlier in the front yard, and we'd all laugh all morning. That's such a weird dream. He crept closer and closer to me. When I started backwards again, something caught the heel of my foot and I fell. He was now right on top of me. I could feel his hot, snarled breaths in my face. When I saw him begin to unhinge his jaws, I closed my eyes to picture me and him holding our baby, the family that would never be. I love you, John. I opened my eyes just a bit. He was still in front of me. It almost sounded like he was trying to say something. Run. That's when he started growling and lowered himself like he was about to attack. I still wasn't 100% sure I actually had heard him speak. Maybe it was all just wishful thinking. But that didn't keep me from obeying when I started hearing the growls coming from behind the well. When I turned around, I saw that the other two from the house had somehow followed us and we were closing in around me. I sprang up and darted for the car. I saw one of the other bodies bound for me, attempting to cut me off. John caught it in the air and pinned it down. They began wrestling like two rabid dogs in a cage on the ground. The partner then charged full on ahead towards me. I made it to the car and immediately turned the engine over. I hesitated for a moment, then looked back to John. He was on the ground with the other one biting at his throats. I almost wanted to try running over to help John, but that was when the other one jumped onto the roof of the car. I slammed the accelerator and started flying further down the pass. I tried swerving left and right to violently shake the beast off the roof of the car, but its claws had anchored into it and I couldn't. I started to hear the grinding of claws tearing into metal. It was gonna tear the roof off. Eventually, a very stupid idea formed in my head. It was almost certifiably suicidal, but it was the only thing I had. With a sharp jerk of the wheel, the car swerved over to the edge of the pass before hammering on the brakes. Sure enough, this managed to actually throw the beast off and hurtling over the edge, tearing half the roof clean off as it went. The front wheels were hanging off the edge. I quickly put the car into reverse and managed to inch my way back onto the pass. From there, I made a beeline for the bottom of the mountain. I knew that I'd need to at least see a doctor, if not a surgeon. But to me, that could wait. Right then, I was more worried about John. I figured once I got to the motel, I could maybe call the local rangers or the state troopers or something to send somebody out there for him. The road felt like it wouldn't end, despite the fact I knew it actually only stretched for about another few miles from where I'd started from. A small wave of relief swept over me when I finally reached that turnoff, seeing another large, bright green sign saying, "Welcome to Jackal's Peak." After that, the motel was just around the corner. I pulled into the empty parking lot, not even to an actual space, just stumbling drunkenly out of the car. I was completely quiet, but the lights of the lobby were still on. I remembered the guy's face when he saw me. "Ma'am, are you okay?" His eyes looked like he was staring at a dead body, which, to be fair, I probably didn't look far from it at the time. I need... Here, he said, getting up from his chair and walking towards me. "Come sit down." He guided me over to a torn, beat-up sofa in the lobby. "Just sit tight for a second, I've got a first aid kit here in the back." I was sitting down when I realized that I don't actually have my purse with me. I had no way of paying for a room. Not only that, but I had also killed any ideas of calling for help, as my phone was also in my purse. Started to feel dizzy by the point from the way my head was spinning. When he came back about 30 seconds later, first aid kit in his hand, he asked me if he needed to call somebody. No, but could I use the phone?" "Sure, it's in the back. Why don't we get these cuts looked at first, eh?" I nodded, and he started treating my wounds. "If you don't mind my asking, ma'am, how'd you get so banged up? You fall hiking the mountain or something?" I just blankly shook my head. "Somebody after you?" Again, I shook my head. "No. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so noisy. Just some pretty bad ones he got here." He finished up before leading me to the phone in the back. "Let me know if there's anything else I could do to help you," he said before leaving me with the phone. The first thing I did was call the local ranger station. To my luck, I was only on hold for about a minute before the call was connected. "Terrace County Ranger Station, what is the nature of your call?" My husband, he's... I could hardly slow down enough to form a proper sentence. "Ma'am, could you repeat that for me?" "My husband is hurt. He's stuck on the mountain pass. You have to send someone out there." "All right, ma'am. Calm down. Can you tell me your name?" I cleared my throat and told him my name. "Loretta Redwood." He then asked me for John's name. "John Redwood." "And you said you last left him somewhere on the pass?" "Yes, at the 30-mile mark." "Please, sir. He's hurt. You gotta send somebody out there." He went on to ask me my current location, and I gave him the name of the motel. He told me that he was dispatching a unit to me, as well as one to the location I gave them before hanging up. 10 minutes later, they showed up and took my statement. When they asked what it was that attacked us, I told them it was a pack of wild coyotes. Surprisingly, they actually bought it, despite being an extremely piss-poor lie. I declined their offer to be taken to a hospital. Like I said, I was fully aware that my wounds and the possible damage to the baby might have been severe. That said, something compelled me to stay put at the motel. He said he would come back for me. Then again, this was 2 nights ago. The ranger told me to keep an ear out, and he let me know when they found him. The guy at the motel, bless him, is letting me stay in an unused room for free until they've sent word on John. I was essentially glued next to a phone in the back for most of the daytime yesterday and today. It was this morning, seeing the front page of the Terrace Ledger. The guy bought in with his early morning breakfast run that I very nearly had a heart attack. Large canine found dead in the middle of the road of Jackal's Peak. I couldn't hold back a scream, startling the poor guy while he was eating. I bolted back to the room and immediately locked the door before burying my face into a pillow, like I was 14 again and just letting everything loose. I refused to believe it, and I still do. It may not have been him, right? It's just the other one, right? Please, oh please, John. Oh sweet Jesus God, Johnny baby. Please don't let that be you. I'm in the back room now, typing this out on the guy's computer as I'm waiting. Just wanting this damn phone to ring and hear the ranger tell me that Johnny's okay. That he is coming back and that we can go home. That's all I want, to have my husband back and go home. I didn't even care anymore about the stuff he kept from me. Or that he's some sort of man-wolf monster. I just want my Johnny back. Please, Johnny, come back. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, it helps the channel a lot. See you next time.